I'm Ettienne from Ettienne's Foods, and today we'll be baking sourdough bread in the Steelle wood burning oven. Right, so our ingredients are as follows. We've got 350 grams of active refreshed sourdough starter. It's nice and light and airy, and you can do a test. Take a little bit of it, put it in some water. If it floats, you know your starter is ready to go. 650 grams of stone ground flour. I'm using flour from Eureka Mills. 300 ml of water at room temperature. With sourdough starter, you don't have to use warm water, the same as with yeast. 24 grams of olive oil. And here we've got 14 grams of sea salt. And that's what we're using. So to start things off, we're going to take our water and our olive oil, put that in the bowl. I always like putting that at the bottom. It helps not keep some dry flour at the bottom. Then we're going to get the starter in there. Get it all good stuff. Give it a little mix. So if you have a stand mixer, use it. But in the beginning, I highly recommend just getting stuck in with your hands. If you haven't done a lot of baking before, this is going to develop a feel for the dough. It's a little bit more of an art than it is a science bread. So you want to be able to feel what's going on. Have you got enough water? Have you got too much water? You can only do that with your hands. There we are. We got that dissolved in there nicely. Now we're going to go in with our flour. Actually, I like to mix my salt into my flour. Give it a little bit of a mix. And in it goes. Again, with your hand, sort of a claw, get going. Really get stuck in there. And combine your wet and your dry ingredients. Now once it's mostly come together, what I would do, get it out, turn it out onto your work surface. Now your goal is to make sure that you get all your dough nicely hydrated. So that's what you want to do. You're just mixing it up, making sure that you get all these little dry pieces incorporated. We've been very careful to weigh out our ingredients, so you don't want anything to go to waste. As quick as that, it starts coming together. And there it is. Okay. So now there's a couple of things you can do to develop the gluten. You can knead it the old traditional way by taking it, stretching it out. Probably take you about 10-15 minutes to get the gluten developed nicely. If it was a wetter dough, you could do what they call a slap and fold, but this dough isn't wet enough for that. Or you just leave it. We're going to leave this for about half an hour, 45 minutes, and time will do the work for us. We don't have to sit here slaving away, kneading the dough until we're sweating. Just leave it, and time will do the work for you. Okay, so it's been about an hour. It's been sitting here. You can see there's a nice smooth dough. Time has done all the work for us, and now all we're going to do, put it back in the bowl. What we call the bulk ferment. We want to see it rise nicely tonight, and then we'll take it, put it in the fridge for the retard. Slows it down until tomorrow afternoon. We're going to fire up the Steelle, and we're going to bake this baby. Okay, it's time to light this baby up. so our Steelle wood burning oven is lit. It's going to take about an hour to get up to temperature nicely. Got to let it get nice and hot. Let it come back down to where you want it, so that those pizza stones are nice and warm, and that really is going to give the rise to the bread. So we took the dough out of the fridge about 10 minutes ago. It was in the fridge overnight for what's called the retard, which is the long fermentation. And before that, it had the bulk fermentation at room temperature for about 4 or 5 hours. And now let's get shaping. Okay. The first thing we're going to do, we're going to get some flour down here. Not going to be shy with the flour, because there's nothing worse than your bread sticking to the counter. And let's pour this out onto the counter. Now those experienced bakers amongst you might notice that this isn't such a high hydration dough. Please excuse Apollo, he's our new puppy and he's commentating from the back. So as I was saying, this isn't such a high hydration dough as is usually used for a ciabatta, but I thought to start things off we'll knock down the hydration a little bit, because it gets a bit difficult to work with. We'll just work with a low hydration dough. So we're going to just tease it out carefully. And cut it up into our shape. Not going to bother with weighing it, because we're going to eat this. We're not selling it on to anybody. And I'll just take cut it into 3. And we're going to make smaller sort of ciabatta rolls out of it. Now you can play with it, you can make different shapes with it. I'm going to leave it just like this, upside down. On the bench. Leave it here to prove until the oven's nice and hot. I'm going to stick them in. Okay, so the oven's been on for about an hour, 15 minutes. It's nicely up to temperature. It got nice and hot and it's come back down to about 200, which is where we want it. And they've been proofing covered. And if you do a little test, a little poke test there, you see they're just about ready. So we're going to take them and put them in the wood burning oven by Steelle. Okay, so here we have it. They've just come out of the oven. And they've been in for about 30-35 minutes or so, and they look fantastic. The smell is amazing. Gorgeous little slow fermentation sourdough ciabatta rolls. My salmis for the week are sorted.